Hello, 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 hello. What's up? What is up? How are people doing? Let me just pull up the stream so I know what's up. I would love to see you in the chat. Let me just pull up the stream. Where is the stream? There's the stream. Got it. Got it. Here we are. The channel is really close to 2K. Can we get there today? If you have not subscribed to the channel, oops. If you have not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel because good content is coming. Good and very helpful content that is gonna help you in programming, in life, in college, in everything necessarily. Alright, do not worry about these things. I'll just close this up. I'll open another folder. Yes, Paji, new specs. Although मेरा आँख खराब नहीं है. These are like blue light blocking computer glasses. Yeah, my eyesight is completely fine. Let's open a new folder, new workspace. All right, we are in. Let's make a new file and call it oops.py. And let's get going with it. Office यार हाँ office join कर लिया मैंने. Yes, let's get going. So today we are going to talk about object oriented programming, which is like a very important topic. So as usual, we are gonna open Paint. Object oriented programming is not like a function or not like a variable new data type. It's nothing new. It's just a very efficient way of writing programs and building systems. So that is exactly what you're gonna do today. So let's create a diagram. Like this is object oriented programming. Okay, there are mainly 6 things, 2 components and 4 principles. Okay, these are the 2 components and we're gonna have like 4 principles. I'll use a text box today. That's one. That's one. So class and object also bhaiya cover about self keyword. Oh yes, I will, do not worry. So the paint components are classes and objects. Now before we come on to these different things, let's talk about what is a class and what is an object. So let me give you an example. Okay, suppose um suppose you run a school and there are new students getting admitted into the school every day, maybe every week. I don't know. So every student needs to be assigned some values. Like whenever there's a new student, every student, suppose a student one will have several different things. Like the student will have a age, student will have a name, student will have a class matlab standard basically. Student will have a roll number. So all these things will be there. Okay. Now, whenever a new student comes in, what you can do is that you can be like student one underscore age equals to 19, student one underscore name equals to this, underscore class equals to this, underscore roll number equals to this. But it will be a lot easier to make a class. Class is basically like a blueprint that we use to make the details for each of the students. So if we have like if you know the age, it might be like key. Okay, if the age is 17, the class will be 11. Okay, so we can maybe have like age, maybe this is a strict school, like the age is 17, then class is always age minus 6. That might be it. But if you are doing this explicitly for every student, you're going to have to write this over and over again. Okay, so that is why a structure, a pre-built structure or a blueprint comes in handy, because this relation will be already inside of this. Okay, so we after we set the age, we do not have to worry about the class. If we use the student class here, a very good name for this class would be student. So how do we use it? A class very simply has like these things. We call it like class. We call it like this. Then there will be the class name, whatever the class's name is, class name, and then we go a bunch of statements. A bunch of statements. The statements will have mainly two parts. One is the constructor, that is basically the blueprint, and two are the methods. That is basically what are the methods that we can, what are the operations, the inbuilt operations with this class. Like whenever there's a student, I can do like, okay, there can be a function called is adult, right? So what is adult will do, it will check the age. If it is greater than or equal to 18, then it will return true, and if it is less than 18, then it will return false. This can be a function. Now, you don't have to make this function explicitly for every different student. We can just have this in the students class. So that is one method. We call this functions method. If a function is embedded inside a class, we call them methods. Okay. So these methods will be exclusive to this class. So whenever there is anything that is referenced from this class, that particular object can use these methods. Now, what is an object? Anything that we create, any identity, any entity that we create using this blueprint, this constructor, and this class is called an object. It's called an object. So, whenever suppose a new student named Rahul is joining your school, Rahul will become an object with this of this student's class. Okay, now let's try writing a little bit of the code, like how does it look like. Okay, the question. Yes, Adarsh, you are partially right. Except this, you're partially right. Except this form will do even more. Like I said, is adult, that can be a function. A function can be to add all his grades and all those things. So this also has some methods, so that is very important. Okay, so how do we write it? As I said, we just have to write like class, we call it student, and we just go ahead. Now, there I already talked about the constructor, right? The constructor is written like this in Python. Sorry, in it. I'll also give like, let's have the student's name, roll number, age, and standard, STD. Okay. We can get rid of this none, but we can keep it there, no problem. Instead of pass, we're gonna do some things like we're gonna write self dot name equals to name, self dot roll number equals to roll number, age, sorry, self dot age equals to age, and we're gonna use that self dot standard equals to age minus, what do we think, 6. So that is now a defined connection, defined, you can say, a relation. Is the stream running perfectly? Yes. So whenever we want a new student, we have what we have to do. By the way, what is this self here? Whenever you're making any type of function, any type of constructor, any type of methods, you have to use self, because if there is no, if it can be like यहाँ पे ये सब ना हो, it that is possible, but only self has to be there, because whenever you're running a function or a method, this instructor is also a method. Whenever you're using a method for a class, one thing that class has to take into account is which object it is. Okay, so it's always gonna have self argument equal to argument. Not really, मतलब यहाँ पे तुम कुछ भी नाम रख सकते हो. This can be name, this can be like student name, whatever. These are the arguments that we are gonna use when we're calling the, when we're trying to make an object. Okay, you can have, and these are the attributes. These are called attributes, and these are called arguments. Attribute, what are attributes? The properties basically. So if I want to create like Rahul as an object, I'll say Rahul student, and then all this. See, you're already, this is already telling us key what do I have to do. So the name is Rahul. Then I have to give a roll number. Roll number may be 34. The age can be, as I said, 16. And okay, I don't need to have standard here because standard is not used. Standard is derived from the age, and that is all I need. I'll create another uh, student. I actually have a ulcer in my mouth, so it's getting a little tough to talk. All right, I'll create another name called maybe Aditya. Let's keep it small. Aditya student. Aditya, his roll number might be 37 and he might be 17 years old. Sorry, one, not one, 87. Now, what we can do is we can literally just get into anything, any type of attribute that you want. We can try printing Rahul.age and we will get the answer. The terminal is loading, and we're getting the answer 16 because that is what is set. If we try to see Rahul.standard, we'll see 10th because we have set it like age minus 6 is always the standard. Alright, so you basically get like we can create hundreds of this without writing all of this again and again and again. Just by using this, we can have all of this information exactly pointed to whatever attributes that we need to do. All right. So now that's not just it. That's not just it. We can even create methods. As I said, the methods that we can create are like any type of functions that can use all of these things. Let's create a method that I talked about is adult, and it will obviously take self in, and we're going to check. Self is basically the object. Self is a stand-in for the object because we do not know the name of the object when we are writing the class. So we just use self as the name of the object because that refers to itself. So we're just going to write like if self dot age greater than equals to 18, return true, else return false. Let's have one more method. What other method can we do? Hmm. Yeah, let's do like print info itself, and we're gonna just print everything. We're gonna like print name is self dot name. Then we gonna print. Let's just print the name and the roll number. Roll number self dot roll number. Okay, now see, name is not working because we named it called student name. Name is just an argument. Student name is the attribute. We can also go ahead and print age. We don't really need to, but we can. No, 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 I don't need to do that. Don't need to do that. Then I don't need that. Sorry. Yes. You can also print the age. We like self dot age. Now, instead of just doing this, we can call Rahul dot print info. And as you can see, we are getting let's get rid of this line. It's a little bit making confusing. As you can see, we are getting okay. Rahul's name is Rahul because obviously we can give like full names यहाँ पे. Rahul Sinha, Aditya Singh. Now you see, okay, man. Now you can see full name is Rahul Sinha, roll number is 34, and age is 16. We can make all of these things. We can even let's try running Rahul dot is adult. Let's modify this is adult. Let's print self dot name, self dot student name, comma, is not is an adult, and if they're not, is not an adult. Now if we run like Rahul is adult, you're gonna see it's gonna say okay, Rahul Sinha is not an adult. Let's change Aditya's age to 19. Sorry, 19, and let's run it for Aditya instead. Now you can see Rahul Sinha is not an adult. Aditya Singh is an adult. Zoom कर दो थोड़ा सा. Okay, I will. I hope this is visible. ज़्यादा ही बड़ा हो गया. But yes, that is how you basically deal with all these things. Now let's go back to paint. Let's see what else is there. You have gotten through the absolute basics of object oriented programming. Let's go and see the first interesting thing, that is inheritance. Let's make it a little bit smaller. It's too big. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, that's it. The first one is inheritance. What is inheritance? What do you understand by inheritance? I want to know. What do you understand by inheritance? I'm looking at the chat, so tell me. Like I inherit my facial features from my dad. Okay, that's interesting. Anything else? We inherit habit from our friends. Well, inheriting does not really go for like for when you adopt when you get some habit from your friends. It's more of a, the better word is adopting habits, not like inheriting. Inheritance comes from when it comes from your guardian or your parents. Others is very close when you get facial features from your dad, or maybe like you, whenever if my father has some property, or my grandfather has some property after his death, my father will inherit the property. That is what inheritance is, basically, in simple terms. So let's try to do like, okay, let's see where the problem lies. Let's see where the problem lies. Let's see what the among the students, some students are also teachers assistants, that are TAs. Now let's get like a few more of this. Maybe called, let's get a female student in. Student, give me a. I have. I'm running out of surnames. My God. Um, what are surnames? Give me a surname, please. Fast, fast. I'm skipping the surname for now, but give me a surname. Now, Mohit has to be Mohit Sharma, obviously. Gupta, yes, yes, yeah, Gupta, yes. All right, now one thing can be maybe Aditya and Ria, both of them are student assistants. So, what you might want to do to create like another class called TA, you might want to do this class called TA, and then do all of these things. And what does a TA have? TA also have a TA ID. TA has extra things like a TA ID and a supervisor. Right? Supervisors are teachers, basically the teacher they work under. So you might want to go ahead and create all of this, like have this and then add like all these things, and then you go ahead and create like self dot TAID equals to, we're gonna add TID over here as well, or you just don't mention it over here. Huh. Yeah, call it TID, then you go self dot supervisor equals to supervisor. And you might do all of this, then copy over this is adult, print info, and everything. We can do that, but there is a better way. What if we make the class called TA inherit the properties, that is the constructor and the methods of the, it's like TA is a student, but every student is not a TA exactly. So TA is essentially a subset of students. So if this is students, all the students, this is the TA class. So TA will already also have, should also have every method, every attribute that a student has. But it should have something extra. Because as I said, it needs a TA ID and it needs a supervisor. So what we're gonna do, instead of just leaving it like this, we're gonna do this. We call TA and we're gonna call student inside. So this will happen ki student will now act as a parent class and TA is a, I guess it's called a daughter class if I remember correctly. I don't remember correctly, but student is called the parent class of the TA class because we are inheriting every attribute and every method that this student class had. There are some extra things, obviously, right? So we're all obviously gonna like write def init. Sorry, I was so bad at this. In, oh my god, init. Now all these things are here. We do not have to worry about because these are like already set in the super, because these things will be taken care by this constructor only. No need to worry about that. We're just gonna add TAID and supervisor, and down here we're gonna write the new things, only the new things. TID equals to TID and self dot supervisor equals to supervisor. All right, and we don't need to do anything else. Honestly, we can add our own new methods to this. New method might be print supervisor. Nothing too fancy, but like, yeah, I'm just making it for the sake of this, so that you understand. Print supervisor, we use self, and we print uh, and let's print self dot name, student name, sorry, student name has a, has super, self dot supervisor as their supervisor. Okay, I'm using this. Why am I using this? Just to show you that even though self dot student name is not defined over here, this is actually taking care of it, and we can use that self dot student name attribute in this function or this method. So we need to define other attributes to student here. Not really, not really. If you're adding the particular ones like TAID and supervisor, we are adding, right? So that is why it is mentioned over here. Okay, makes sense. Let's go ahead and run. Um, and let's change Aditya and Ria to from a student to a TA. And let's try running Ria dot print supervisor. Okay, we did not give all the if for a TA we need more things. After the age, the TA ID can be 002 and supervisor can be Professor Smith. I don't know, I'm just putting in random names. Ria can have 001. A professor can be Professor. I'm running out of names. Damn. Sharma. I'm definitely running out of surnames. So now let's try running ria.print supervisor and see what happens. As we can see, leading zeros in a decimal. Okay, we can't do leading zeros in a decimal. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Let's try doing it now. We can see Riya Gupta has Professor Sharma as their supervisor. Makes sense? Makes a lot of sense. And I would also like to show you that even though Aditya is now a TA, we can still use the methods that we have defined in the student class. If we can still do like Aditya dot is adult. If we do that, we can see Aditya Singh is an adult because he is 19 years old. Even though he is a TA, because TA class is inherited from student class, it is now different. And it is also like it can also access the methods that were declared inside the student class. All right. Now the next big thing is, let's have this here, polymorphism. Next thing is called polymorphism. Now ये नाम देख के तुमको लग रहा होगा कि भाई बहुत मुश्किल चीज है, इतना मुश्किल नहीं है, वेरी सिंपल. जी आदर्श जी, टाइप आदित्य करे तो ओके. लेट्स ट्राई क्या होता है. अच्छा ख्याल आया तुमको. As we can see, it says Aditya is from the class that is called main.ta. That is from the TA class. If we do Mohit instead, we'll get that okay, this is from the student class. So that just says okay, it's an object of the class student. Aditya is an object of the class TA. Alright, makes sense. Now, as I was talking about the um, about polymorphism. What is polymorphism? Now, morphing, you might know that morphing means like changing shape or changing their identity at different places, basically having different identities, different properties at different places. That is exactly what polymorphism is. Let's try print info. Okay, when it was in the student class, what did print info do? Print info did print's name, roll number, and age. Maybe we want the print info in, maybe we want like, okay, we want the print info, but we want something else. We want like, instead of just printing these things for the TAs, also print the TID. Or like maybe skip the age and just print the TID. Yes, exactly. Power Rangers, you can say that. You can say, or there will be other options as well. Like if you watched like Terminator, you remember like those Terminators could change their face and everything. That's morphing, right? That is basically what is polymorphism. So, what is morphing over here? It is this method called print info. When it is called inside the student class, it has this definition. But when it is called inside the TA class, it has this definition. Although the name stays the same. Okay, let's try calling Aditya dot print info, and let's try calling Rahul dot print info. All right. Both of these method names are same, but let's try running them. And you will see when we're printing for Aditya, we're printing name, roll number, and TID. But when we're printing for Rahul, we're printing name, roll number, and age. Because Rahul is a object based on the student class, and Aditya is an object based on the TA class, and TA class has a different definition to print info. All right, that makes sense. I'll give you a minute to grasp this. Tell me a yes. Basically, if you are not redefining anything, it stays the same as the parent class. If you redefine something, it has a new definition particularly for that class. हाँ, एग्जैक्टली एग्जैक्टली. ऑलराइट, तो तुमको दो चीजें समझ आ गई हैं. अभी तीसरा चीज पे चलते हैं. तीसरा चीज इज, इसको लिखो कहाँ पे, थोड़ा नीचे यहाँ पे लिखता हूँ. एनकैप्सुलेशन. ठीक है. बताओ एनकैप्सुलेशन से तुमको क्या समझ आ रहा है, क्या क्या लग रहा है, तो क्या हो सकता है एनकैप्सुलेशन से. देयर इज नो रॉन्ग आंसर्स. ठीक है, तुमको दिमाग में जो आ रहा है बता दो. कुछ नहीं. ओके. What encapsulation does is basically, like यहाँ पे एक क्लास था तुम्हारा. ठीक है, एक स्टूडेंट क्लास था. फिर स्टूडेंट क्लास का एक हमने डॉटर क्लास बनाया, जो कि, या डॉटर क्लास है या चाइल्ड क्लास बोलता है, डोंट एग्जैक्टली रिमेंबर, चाइल्ड क्लास बोलते हैं डॉटर क्लास बोलता है. चाइल्ड क्लास बनाया नेम्ड टीए. तो क्या हुआ, डॉट क्लास, सॉरी, स्टूडेंट क्लास के जो इन्फॉर्मेशन थे वो सारी चीज़ें इसमें भी आ गई. बट ऐसा हो सकता है कि तुम्हें तुम्हारे स्टूडेंट क्लास में ऐसी कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन हो जो तुम्हें प्रोटेक्ट करनी है, जो तुम्हें नहीं देनी है. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि कोई भी आके उसको ले ले और चेंज कर दे या फिर रिट्रीव कर ले. So that is why it's called encapsulation. You are basically making a capsule and putting your class or some class attributes inside them, so nobody can basically get them. All right. So that is why something called, sorry, private variables are included, or private attributes. Like, um, let's see something like, let's take like roll number is used in print info TA, right? Git ignore, I mean, not really, I guess. I'm not very familiar with git ignore files, but I don't think so. That's the same thing. All right. So what we can do, we're gonna come here before roll number. We're just gonna add like two underscores. What will this do? Two underscores will make this a private variable that we get, cannot retrieve from outside this class. So this print info ideally should work, but this print info should not work because this is not the same class anymore. Let's give it a try. I'm not like, I hope I remember it correctly. So print info dot Aditya and print info dot Rahul. Let's try for Rahul first. And okay, so when it's a private variable, you cannot print it outside. You cannot retrieve it basically. Okay, let's try this instead. Now you'll see that name Rahul Sinha tak ho raha hai, and then student has no attribute called roll number. I guess we can change that. We can come here and be like, okay, roll number ऐसा use करो. Um, let's try this. Okay. Now you'll see that Rahul Sinha is working. Let's try that for Aditya as well. I was seeing that Aditya is not able to work, but Rahul Sinha was working. I'll just bring Aditya below Rahul so that Rahul gets printed. Yeah. So Rahul Sinha is working. Rahul Sinha, roll number 34, age 16. Why is it working? Because Rahul is an instance, is a object that is created from the student class. And inside the student class, roll number is a protected value or a private value. Okay, the private and protected are different, but in this case, we're not getting into that. Abhi, it's a private value, so only the methods that are inside this student class can retrieve that value and use that value. But as soon as we are doing some kind of inheritance, we are using student as a parent class to create another class. That class cannot get this. Okay, because object has no attribute ta dot roll number because it is a private attribute of the student class. Ta class cannot get access to it. Can I do Python for DSA? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Others, you're right. Like हर एक student कैसा हो सकता है? Student का every student can have their like mark sheet, their marks that shouldn't be accessible to anyone, right? That should be accessible to everyone. अगर तुम्हारे पास particular credentials है, maybe then it can be their I don't know, their um, bank account number and IFSC code or something like that. It can be something like that. So that needs to be protected so that any other class cannot come in and inherit our main class and get those values out of it. Okay, you got it. The last piece of the puzzle is called abstraction. I'll make it a little smaller so that it fits. It is called abstraction. Now, abstraction is basically a little variant of this thing. Like it now in abstraction, we talk about like different types of variables, like protected variables and private variables, how they are different, and basically you can understand like there are three types of variables. Data abstraction, I'm not going to show you an example because it's not that important at this stage. तुम्हारा अभी कोई काम नहीं आने वाला है वो. So basically there are three types of variables. I'll just use text, looks better. One is public, one is protected, and one is private. So these are like three different levels of protection basically. Okay, public is anyone can access, anyone can print, anyone can retrieve. Protected is if you're in that particular class, you can retrieve it, you can print it, and you can access it. Private variable, however, even if you're in that class, you cannot print it. You can use the particular variable, but you cannot access it properly. You can use the value of the variable in some logical operation, in some arithmetical operation, but you cannot access it directly. Now, abstraction, I'm not going to go much into it. Abstraction is basically this, having these three different types of protection on variables and how they basically play out. All right, abstraction again बहुत ज़्यादा important नहीं है तुम्हारे लिए अभी. If you understand inheritance and polymorphism properly, that's more than good enough. Okay, nobody is gonna ask you about encapsulation and abstraction. I mean, the max they can ask you about abstraction and encapsulation is what are they? What do they do? So मैंने जितना बताया इतना is good for you. You have a really good understanding. You need to have a really good understanding of classes and objects. And इसके साथ साथ obviously वो सब चीज़ें आती है like attributes, then also like methods, and as soon as attributes and methods come in, you also get like inheritance and polymorphism. What are these things? There is also something called function overloading. I'll show you what that is. That is in a way a polymorphism type ka cheese, but it's not related to object-oriented programming. So, and it's a very common interview question. They're gonna ask you like, what are the four pillars of object-oriented programming? What are the four components of object-oriented programming? So these are the four things: inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, and abstraction. Yes, yes, exactly. Abstraction का तुम्हारा इस स्टेज पे ज्यादा यूज नहीं पड़ेगा. तो डो नॉट वरी अबाउट दैट. बस चार नाम याद रखो. और मैंने बेसिक क्या बोला कि होता क्या है. इट इज बेसिकली कि जो डेटा या जो एट्रीब्यूट्स हमें यूजर को नहीं दिखाना है उनको हम छुपा देते हैं बेसिकली, और कुछ नहीं. ठीक है, मेक सेंस. मैं एक बार तुमको दिखाता हूँ फंक्शन ओवरलोडिंग क्या होता है. इन सबको छोड़ते हैं, इन सबको थोड़ा नीचे आते हैं. लेट्स क्रिएट अ फंक्शन कॉल्ड process. No, not process, exponent. Okay, and if we give a number, it's gonna return num square. We can define another function with the same name, give it num exp, return num to the power xp. Now, how will, yes, exactly, like hash passwords, yes, that those are private. Like if we get our own so the user comes in and enters the password, we get it through the hash function and we can compare it with the hashed password. Okay, is this it? But we will not exactly know like what is the password. So whenever we try to call this exponent, if we call this with a number like 4, what's gonna happen is it's gonna say, okay, there's this new, you are supposed to give like two of them, basically two arguments, so you have to get in like 4 and 2. Now it's going to print 16. So even though this function was already declared, as soon as we declare it again with the same name, this gets overridden. So that is what's called function overloading. Makes sense? Now if you try to do the similar thing here, that will be a little bit different. If we print the same thing like with two different argument list, both of the functions will be valid depending on what are we feeding in. Like यहाँ पे अगर I do the print info thing again with I don't know num, I don't know what num is. If I do it, copy paste it and make two print info, Then it will depend on if I call print info with no argument, then it will execute this. If we print, if I try to call print info with one argument, that is num, it will do the other one. Okay, so that's called function overloading. That is called function overriding. Is the stream stopped or something? No, right? Okay, okay, okay. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so that is basically all I wanted to clear as of today, and we'll have a really good, you can say, a lab session basically, which is we're gonna implement whatever we learned tomorrow in a very neat and clean way, and see why this is important and how magical of a thing this is, and why object oriented programming is a must if you want to become a web developer, a game developer, or software developer, whatever you want to become. Object oriented programming is the staple of the industry. Anything and everything will use this, but एक दो बार खुद से implement करके देखना पड़ेगा. Yes, Adarsh, please go ahead and do that. If you don't get time, we'll come back tomorrow, and इसके बाद मतलब कल या फिर नेक्स्ट सेशन जब भी होगा, आई विल सिट विथ यू एंड बेसिकली इम्प्लीमेंट एक बड़ा सा ऐसा प्रोग्राम which will basically implement and like modulate, replicate a few, maybe a restaurant, maybe a, I don't know, maybe a school, maybe a hospital or something like that. Yeah, that is basically what we are going to do in the next session. And thanks a lot for joining today's session. It was really fun teaching all of these. These are really interesting things, honestly. Okay, so I will take my leave, and thanks a lot for joining. And